Well, hello, Uber Tuber Uber Ubers. Here we have finally made it to the lofty summit of a mountain. And this kind of distance, just get with the horizon. There's some hills way down there. I don't know if you can make them up. I want to say that might be down, shoot, I don't know, 45 miles or more from here. You can see mountain out yonder. Them are by Deming, I believe, which is 60 miles west of us. There's a community up here called Doniana. Of course, you can't make it out because it kind of blends in, but Cruces is kind of spread out, you can see. So anyway, I just wanted to point you, this spot you see right in front of you, all that garish white stuff, this is the very top of the A. I'm standing right above the top of the A now. You can't see it really from here, but boy, they sure must have spilled a lot of paint to make this happen. And I can't imagine doing that. Ugh. That's a lot of work. Coming up this hill, the little traily thing is right over there. And it runs up right beside the left-hand side of the A. And it's got a lot of steep stuff in it. I kept thinking to myself, there's got to be a better way. So I come up here and go, oh yeah, I forgot there's a road. People can drive up here. And somehow that had kind of eluded me. This is what I was talking about up here. Tortugas Mountain Observatory, I guess. I'm pretty sure that's run by the university, and I don't know how frequently manned, but it looks like there might be some nice equipment in there. This is some kind of shrine, I guess, to, I'll figure it out. Probably Mary, yeah. So see all these glass candles and stuff, right, and the flowers? That's pretty typical. And I just leave that stuff alone. I'm sure it's part of some thing that happens probably at Easter, or maybe they have several days a year. But anyway, this is a place out here. It's a little bit different. Kind of, let me get lined up. Kind of down that way. It's near Mesilla, and it's adjacent to Las Cruces, a little settlement called Tortugas. It's not incorporated as a city. I think it's a subdivision that's just in the county and not qualified as a city, but I'm not sure. Anyhow, however they're governed. This thing is used by Catholics up here. I guess anyone could do it. You know, I think there's free access here. But these little candle thingies hanging out on top, I guess you get those at like Catholic bookstores. I'm going to use the rocks to scratch my back. Whew. Anyway, nice view up here. It's been years and years since I was up here, and I believe I came up with a youth group from church 15 years ago. I had no memory of how steep that rascal was, and I kept thinking to myself, this hill can't be that long. Well, I checked my clock. From the time I came into the parking lot, it was about 3 o'clock, and I got to the top. It was about 3:30. I swear that was one of the longest half hours I've had in a while. But you know what it reminded me a little bit of was if you ever do any hiking, you got to remember on hills that have a pretty steep incline, going up, yeah, that's tough. And you'll feel it in your legs. But the one you got to watch out for is when you start heading down. Now there, you better be careful. And because all them rocks start acting like marbles, you know. This is doing my little compass gizmo. I'm going to say that little bumpity-humpity out yonder is pretty much true south. So El Paso, I believe, is off that way. Those mountains right there, them misty ones, those might be the ones adjacent to El Paso. There's something called the east side and the west side of EP. I think it has to do with the east side of the mountain or west side of the same mountain. So we could walk around the corner a little bit. But anyway, this little shrine thing happens here. So the folks at Tortugas have a deal where at least once a year, probably Easter, but I don't know that, Roman Catholics, they'll all have a pilgrimage up here. And I guess a pretty good group of them. I think a priest comes up and does some kind of service. You know, maybe. But I mean, from what I've heard, some of the hardcore, shall we say, heavy hitters among the Tortugans come up, they walk the stinker barefoot. I think all the way from Tortugas, which is adding like another 5 miles of pavement and stuff. I mean, that individual's got some profoundly tough toes. I mean, feet. Everything. That's impressive. Because some of this stuff, I can tell it'd be really hard on your feet. But look at this stuff. It's not bad with tennis shoes on, by golly, but barefoot, I think I'd be kind of jumping up and down and going, ouch, ouch, ouch. That may be, I'm guessing, cell phone junk. For years they had issues out here on top of what's called a mountain. It was kind of a natural barrier because most of the cell transmission stuff was out in the valley here. So this presented a barrier for who? You can see them now. For the last 30 years at least, more like 50 years, people have been expanding back here. This is what's called the Talavera area, I think. And again, it's not incorporated, but I don't know if it's part of Las Cruces. Because I know that, for instance, when we get when we get service for gas, well, maybe they will start with the city soon. Yeah, I think it is called city out here in terms of, however the taxes and billing and stuff go. I'm just trying to decide. I guess it doesn't really matter. They probably go to the same place. Haven't been up here in a long time. Anyway, I gave on that talk to some mid-high kids. Some of the parents had requested me to do so. And so I was standing right about here, and we were kind of sitting on these rocks and having some snacks and stuff before heading back down. And like I said, I have completely blanked out how steep that hill is walking up. Boy, I thought, am I out of shape or what? So we were somewhere right in this neighborhood, and I gave this little kind of impromptu, but I mean, I'd sort of planned out what I was going to say. Talk, I said, look around you. How far can you see? I said, if the sky is clear, and you even get up just 1,000 feet higher, you can see a long, long way. And especially if you're in a small airplane flying low, your view is just so expanded, And it's a little bit like being up in a plane, maybe, but a very slow flying plane, I guess. But anyhow, the talk was about how all that you see right here, all this solid stuff, at the end of the age, it reads 2 Peter, it seems to indicate that he's going to burn everything up. But, I mean, toast, like adios, it's gone. Like all these hills and the clouds and everything just burned up in divine fury. And I try to communicate that, frankly, my friend, that's the norm. In other words, all we have to look forward to in ourselves is fury. Because his standard, hate to inform you, has remained and is now and shall always be perfection. Boy, we got some noise and clutter right here. What's that all about? Probably a refrigeration system. That stuff's probably got to be kept cool. There's a bunch of data transmission programming stuff, I'm guessing, in there, and that those whatever they're called, the computer modules probably need to be chilled, some kind of optimum temperature. So anyhow, this is kind of the view from up here, and I just wanted to make a little short talk and show you this is kind of like the other side of a mountain. Finally got here. Okay, well, almost. We can get a little closer. And so if you ever come to Cruces, by golly, that hill, that's like going up, 35 flights of stairs or something, where you got to watch your feet on every step because there's marbles down there. But anyhow, I drove out that same road right now that you can see. And the Dripping Springs area, you can see some lightly spotty areas up in there. And some of that's big boulders. And I did drive right by them boulders. So it's somewhere right up in there is where we were walking and talking yesterday. I'm going to guess in miles that's maybe 8, maybe 10 miles across there, but it's hard to say. But this is the kind of thing I grew up with in Albuquerque, except better. Up in the Sandias, those are up at 10,600 at the crest, I believe. 10.4, I think, at the peak. But anyhow, boy, you can see almost forever up there on top of that on a clear day, And so to me, to stretch out and get a view, this is what seems normal. And so I remember when I was in Georgia in the military, I just hated it because it was like, I kept thinking to myself, how do you get outdoors around here? And people didn't even know what I was talking about. I was like, everything seems so crowded. You'd never see anything more than 200 yards away. I mean, it's like the world shrunk. And they didn't know what I was talking about. But I've heard that the reverse is true, that for folks who grew up around, thick greenery and, maybe up in Maine or some real cool and green place, they come out here and they feel all exposed, like man, this is like being on the face of the moon. Everyone can see me. And so I guess it works both ways. Anyway, go out and get yourself some good exercise. And I'm not going to kill you with any more exciting visuals or keen insights from up here. I just wanted to comment and say, you know, when you go and walk, yeah, sure, you want to get a workout. I'm going to sit here right on this concrete. I was given permission by the concrete cops. When you go for a walk, you want to get a little bit of a workout, yeah. And it's funny how I guess I just blanked this place out. I mean, if I came up here once a week, I would be in great shape. I mean, that hill, it didn't kill me, but it slowed me down. And I got off on this crazy branch somewhere where it led nowhere. I don't know. And in fact, it started heading downhill, and I thought it wasn't the goal to go up. And so it's kind of funny. The last time I was up here, I had to be reminded again at the top, oh yeah, there's a road up here. Funny thing is, if you ask me where that road goes to or how to find it at the bottom, I have no clue. So I guess I could look it up on Googly. She probably knows. So anyway, I told the kids, think of everything you see here. The whole blasted nodule here. Look up, look up. How far does that space go? I don't, infinite, as far as we can tell. He's talking about pulling the stars from the skies and sweeping the mountains away with a rush, and the heavens be rolled up like a scroll. The earth swept away. And at that time, really, the thing we're standing on, the premise that we're standing on, we're calling this reality. That's the world. Well, what happens when the world goes away? Then it's just us and him. And who's going to come to the rescue? The only mediator between God and man, Jesus Christ the righteous. He has the victory. See, this is our testimony, brother. This is our testimony, sister. He has set you free. And in this new freedom, you are freed to proclaim to others the same kind of mercy he has shown you. So did he show you the mercy of healing your conscience? Did he clear up your guilt and shame? And I was thinking about that today. Boy, that thing is a noisy bugger. I was thinking about that today in terms of the commandments. One of them is very interesting. Well, actually, they're all interesting. But at any rate, one caught my interest today as they were being read aloud. We did that today. I like that. I think that wholesome part of church. How about that? But anyhow, do not take the name of I am who is your God in vain. For those who do, I tell you, their guilt shall remain upon them. Something like that. So guilt and shame are linked to a misuse of the name, a calling uselessly, a calling in folly, a calling falsely, or a calling without real heart in it. Some kind of just mouth service only to God. He says don't do that, because if you do, your guilt and shame are still being held against you. You're not officially forgiven. You haven't put down your so-called righteousness yet. That's part of the deal, Bubba. Get used to it. And so I'm going to park over in the shade here a minute, behind the big square white block. I don't know how long this stinker's been here. And here comes power from El Paso Electric. A few years back, the city came in and did this skullduggery where they basically condemned El Paso Electric stuff or something, a forcible takeover inside the city so they could collect the utility fees for the electricity, although they weren't even a broker thereof. I mean, it's like, what? So somehow, that seemed awfully unconstitutional to me at the time. There we go. Yeah, I was just going to kind of sit down on a rock somewhere in the cool of the shade. Yeah, looks like a good spot right in here. Yeah, so when you get down to it and you think about, well, look here, the world's kind of going nuts. There are still quiet places. There are still quiet places where, you can extend yourself. And I was doing my Stevie Wonder thing today. You notice I bear a remarkable resemblance, don't I? Mm-hmm. You would think you were talking to the musical guy himself now, wouldn't you? Nope, it's not Stevie, it's me. Ha, faked you out. And it always reminds me of, the old Superman thing. The old 50s TV show. You got to go back and watch it sometime. It's pretty good. It's just for how flaky it was. But I watched that stuff as a kid in reruns. So anyway, old Clark Kent, he's got them glasses on. And see it, Clark. I'm going to walk out the door now. So he goes out and whoosh, comes back as Superman like 3 seconds. He's like the original quick change artist. And boy, he probably would have won AGT if he just tried. But anyhow, He comes roaring back 7 seconds later, it's Superman. And nobody notices that it's like the same guy because this guy's not wearing glasses. And I remember thinking about that as a kid, thinking, you know what bothered me about the Superman on TV as a boy? And actually, there was a couple of things that I objected to as a very young boy, 7, 8 years old. First of all, his lenses are clearly plano. If you look at Superman in the old TV show and he glances up toward the light, you know, huge stage lights that you don't see, because they had to have that to film it, right? Well, the light would glint off it like it would a pane of glass, a flat planar surface. Sorry, lenses aren't ground that way. I know that. I'm 7. Those are not real glasses. This bothers me. How come none of his friends noticed that? What kind of phony balonies are they? See, that's where I was coming from. Then the other thing that bothered me, and I hate to admit this, but okay, during the starting, you know, he's faster than a speeding bullet, stronger than a railway locomotive. Leaps high buildings with a single bound. Why did he do that? Why didn't he just fly? But never mind that. But the one that bothered me, he's standing in front of a diesel electric train, right? And it was a kind of a modern train, 1950s, you know. He's just standing on the tracks there holding that thing. And he stops it from moving, I guess. And it's like, no, I'm afraid that cannot happen. See, when Superman jumps down in front of a moving train, if he stops and if he holds his position, if he can somehow do that, that's some serious traction, by the way, he's just going to act like a can opener and go right through the engine, split the engine in half. That's a rather strange ending for a TV show. Or if, on the other hand, inertia and, just the general metallurgical dynamics hold true, the obvious answer would be Superman would become essentially a new plow. Being pushed by the train, he's holding himself with his hands against the front of it. He stands vertically. His heels become a plow, destroying train ties, which causes the train to derail. How come they didn't think of that? And I mean, I was like a second grader, you know. Anyway, that's the sort of thing that bothered me. But getting up here, you just got to get away from everybody. And you know what I was thinking about? I thought, where is everybody? I mean, it's a beautiful day for hiking. How come I'm the only one up here? And I thought, I wish I'd locked my truck. Actually, I don't know if I did. But anyway, nobody's up here. Why? It's football season, Mike. Every red-blooded American male in the United States is watching NFL football right now. I don't even have a TV, and I don't even want one. And I don't know. I guess you can do that view for profit junk on NFL if you care. But to me, it's like, it's a gang of millionaires playing grab ass in the park. I mean, get over it. It's exciting, but I think most of the games are fixed. It's for entertainment purposes only. It's just that a whole lot of gambling just kind of necessarily rolls off, which is kind of a mafia connection, which we'd rather keep quiet. And it's like, weird. So anyway, if you don't watch TV, you have a different kind of life. You go out and find hills to hike up and knock yourself out. I was huffing and puffing. But it sure is nice here in the shade. So go find yourself a hill to climb, and I'll give you one more view. I'm not going to film this on the way down because I don't trust myself. A couple of those places were actually kind of sketchy. For an old fart, as I was going up, I thought, well, now remember, Mike, the shadows are coming up. Everything's going to look different coming down. A lot of places where you can catch roly-polies under your feet. You end up on your butt in about a quarter second, start sliding down there. It's happened, trust me. I can witness to that. I used to love hiking in the mountains when I was younger. It was a good way to get away from everybody. Let's face it, being around people can be pretty toxic. Pretty taxing and overworking. You gotta get away. Go find your maker. Down there, where is this place? I should know this by now. That big ugly affair right in front of us that looks like a tragic episode at a architect's nightmare or something. That's a local high school, Centennial High down there. Briefly, years ago, I believe that's Centennial. What else could it be? I'm pretty sure I'm in the right area. Yeah, so at any rate, I did a part-time gig at the public schools years ago, nighttime janitor gig, and it's just part-time. I was doing that because the job I had was real squishy. We were only getting like 22 hours a week because the boss just couldn't round up any new work. So I said, well, I'll hang with the guy for a while, and stayed put and just did this other part-time gig at night. Boy, I worked in that sucker a couple of times, man. That's a huge school. They need a small army of janitors, and they all come in at night. They leave about 11 o'clock at night. I used to do that gig at several of the schools in town, but that was years ago. Looking in front of us here, that's a lot of university property out there. And like I said, this thing behind me, this telescope, I have no idea who owns that sucker. But I'm probably going to head on down now. And so you've been at both the bottom of the A and the top of the A, and so you've had the total experience. Now, if you can kind of lean around the corner here a little bit with me, I think, unless I'm frankly hallucinating, starting over in there, it's near the base of what you'd call them mountains. But just below it, there's a kind of spotty, you can see a little bit of buildings here and there. And I believe we're seeing Oregon up there. There's a thing called San Augustine Pass. You'd lead right over it. It's called San Augustine, and I think that's around 5,000 feet elevation. It's 1,400 feet higher than Cruces, something like that. So again, there's some gain on that hill. Long haul, if you're coming over with a trailer, watch out. It'll eat your transmission. It's a long hill. A lot of elevation gain. So anyway, we're not super high here. Cruces isn't even, now I may be over 4,000 feet here, but I really don't know the highest height of the top of the Oregons behind me. I want to say someone told me one time that it was something plus 7,000 feet to the top of the highest hills, which I think they meant were those knobby suckers right in front of us. And anyway, on the other side of that hill is White Sands Military. It's an army base over there, and if you keep going, you'll find Holloman over near Alamo, and Alamogordo's near the base of their own set of mountains, which look hideous from the Alamogordo side, but they're actually pretty nice once you get up in them. From the Alamo side, those mountains look like some that dropped out of a moonscape or something. And from up here, I'm hearing a motorcycle from at least 2.5 miles away. I've stood up here, I think, before and actually heard the interstate sound, that high whine of tires. Kind of depends on the wind, I think. Anyhow, this is what it's like being up here. And if you come to Cruces, bring your hiking shoes. It's worth a little walk, and it's a pretty nice view, actually. Bye-bye.